Thanks for tuning in, guys. You're listening to Ace Comicals. I'm Greg Driver. I'm joined by Rahul Jani and Leon Everett. Let's go! Hello and welcome to Ace Comicals episode number 76, and we have a full house again. I'm joined by both Ray and Leon tonight.
Hey guys.
Hey.
And it's been a long time since we've had you on, Leon. Since we've had you around, actually.
Yeah, where the hell have you been?
Feels like forever, man.
Many moons. I've been away. The first episode that I was meant to miss is because I was in New York on holiday for the first time, which was pretty awesome. It feels like ages ago now because it was kind of ages ago, but no, it was really enlightening, and I don't know, I felt like I was where I was supposed to be while I was there. Like New York is, I'm very much a city guy, and New York is like the ultimate city that it just caters to loads of things that I love. It's pretty much a 24/7 city, and where I was staying, which was in between Central Park and Times Square, it was just glowing in like the best way possible. Like walking around at night was the best, but walking around in the day was the best, and everything from all the different accents, the different variations of accents, the classic sort of stereotypical New York attitude, and the fact that the cars are constantly honking at each other, like there's no chill whatsoever. All of it just created this urban cacophony that I really enjoyed.
But let's answer the real questions. Like, did you see the Baxter Building? Did you?
Yeah, I saw the Baxter Building. I saw the Avengers Tower.
Yeah.
I went by Forest Hills on the train on my way into Manhattan.
Yeah.
Didn't manage to see Spidey swinging around, but I could feel his presence.
Did you hear Ecto-1 scream past at any point?
No. I think that October, like in the run up to Halloween, the ghosts kind of like chill out a bit, and then I think after Halloween they go a bit wild again.
Yeah, you got to save your energy for that.
Yeah, I'm sure those guys are probably on holiday.
Halloween's like Thanksgiving for ghosts or something, or like Christmas for ghosts, where they just like go home to their families.
Well, yeah, if I remember correctly, in Buffy, Halloween is that everyone takes, all the demons and vampires take the night off.
That comes up in the comics as well. Like Halloween, everybody chills. It's like,
it's a cool concept. I did bump into the Turtles while I was there.
Oh yeah.
There was a nice dollar pizza store like right around from the hotel, and bumped into Leo a couple times. It was cool.
Yeah.
It was. I'd highly recommend it as a city to visit, and I had like a big list of things that I wanted to do, and did a very small portion of the list, despite having done quite a lot, because there's a lot of various different cultures there that I love, like the aforementioned comics, of course, but my love of like music, like the birthplace of hip hop, and so many things. There's a lot of history in that town, because it's one of the oldest cities in the US. And I did a lot of museum stuff. I did a lot of sightseeing. I ate so much food and took many a photo, which I've still not uploaded yet. But it was great.
I meant to ask you about the hip hop side of things. Like how much? Yeah, like where did you go? Like what kind of stuff did you see related to that?
Well, I think like this is an area that did get a bit of short shrift on this holiday, but I did go up to Harlem.
Yep.
It was horribly raining that day, so I didn't get to explore as much as I wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
And there was like hour and a half waits on all the food places. But Made it up there. I didn't get to go to the Bronx, unfortunately, which is the true birthplace, which would, like, on a return there, it'd be the number one place that I'm heading to, and hopefully bump into Desus and Miro and AOC. I did go to Brooklyn. Again, though, I just got screwed with these times because there was a storm, so one day was super rainy, and the rest of the days were like really nice. And then there was another day that was a bit rainy, and it was a Sunday, and that was a day where it put the kibosh on going to a few historical sites that I wanted to go to, and like classic graffiti spots. So all that means is that I just have to go again. So, like, what can you do? You just have to go again.
Well, yeah. I want to go to New York. It's probably one of the only places in the US I actually really want to visit.
I think you'd love it there.
Yeah.
Just like walking around. So I remember being around the corner from like Midtown Comics.
Yeah.
Which is like a
store.
And there was it was kind of like a barcade, but it wasn't barcade because I went to barcade. It was kind of like an arcade, but they had like a big screen with Smash setup and like loads of different, like it was kind of like the new version of a LAN, and it looked really awesome. I think you had to like book if you wanted to get a proper spot or anything, but it was right near Chinatown as well.
Okay.
And that's somewhere that I didn't get to go in, but I definitely want to go in because it looked awesome. It looked like the kind of thing that you imagined you'd want to have when you were like a teen or in your early 20s.
Yeah.
Just your like local place that you can go in and you know everyone there. And then you've got your LCS around the corner. It's like the perfect zone. Oh, and like the best food in the city. It's like that area is the best.
If I was rich and in my early 20s again, I'd move there. That sounds lit.
Did you get to go to the Nintendo shop while you were there?
I did. And it was a Nintendo shop. It was cool. There was some cool stuff in there. But I'm not really a merchandise guy.
Yeah, but it's a nice place to walk around in. Like they have the like mini Nintendo museum at the on the upper floor where they have like every single console and
and
good stuff in there.
One thing that was funny is seeing all the like amiibo just in a row,
and
like they all laid out in quite a cool way.
Did you visit many of the comic shops? Did you go into Midtown Comics or anything like that?
No, I did not.
Is Midtown Comics the one in Times Square?
No.
Oh, okay. Because I went to one really big comics book shop that was in Times Square. That was really cool. It's like huge, and it had like big outfits of Batman and stuff that you could buy. It was pretty funky.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, I went into like a bookshop which had some comics and stuff as well, but I didn't go into the world famous comic book stores because I just didn't end up having the time, and I had to split the difference between doing stuff and seeing stuff, and then spending time in places.
Well, sounds like you had a great time anyway.
Yeah, I had a really good time, and it was a nice break. It was good to be away from things.
Yeah.
I tried not to check Twitter too much during that time, and it was nice.
So you were away, and then in between that, I was away as well because I went to Budapest, and then Ray has just been sat on his own in the UK. So
having a whale of a time.
So more importantly, Leon, since you came back from New York, what media have you consumed?
Well, since then, I was only out there for 8 days, 7 nights, and then you lose a day coming back. And even in that time, like I had a million podcasts built up, but I didn't listen to any of them because I had TV to watch, and there's been crap loads of TV. So starting off, the much sort of scaredly anticipated HBO show Watchmen, which is a continuation, a sort of remixed semi-sequel to the comic book.
I hear if you say HBO Watchmen 3 times into a mirror, Alan Moore appears and tears out your voice box.
Well, I'm not doing that. There's a mirror in this room, so black mirrors too. But yeah, like just the sentence I said is quite a daunting thing that you'd never think you'd hear, and you'd never really want to hear. And upon hearing that Lindelof was making a Watchmen show a couple of years back, after he had finished doing The Leftovers, which is possibly my favourite TV show of this decade.
Oh, and mine.
I was like, oh, no, don't do that. We don't need another Watchmen. Like, go and do something new and original. Like, don't waste... You've just given us one of the best shows ever made. Like, go and do something else that's going to be awesome as well. Don't box yourself in doing an adaptation of Watchmen. And he didn't. And he managed to do something. He's managing to do something original and new, but set in the world of Watchmen, because it's not a readaptation.
It's a sequel, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's
like a decades later continuation.
Yes, it's pretty much set now, and it carries on from the comics continuity, not the film continuity, and
which is a great choice to make.
Yeah, like the show is like spoiler straight up. It's a recommendation from me, like just hands down. At this point, 5 episodes have aired in the US. As we're recording this, there'll be 5 episodes out. And so there's obviously been a lot of discourse. People listening to it have already watched it or have just heard that it's meant to be good. But like it is highly recommended. I believe it's 9 parts, and it's a revelation because it's doing a lot of smart things using this framing and context.
Yeah. Now I know both of you have watched this, and I haven't yet. But does this take into account any of the Doomsday Clock stuff?
No.
Okay.
It's as if Watchmen the comic events happened, and then the ending in 1980s year it was. Exactly.
And then it skips forward to now, 2019.
Yeah, and then it's just now, 2019.
Okay.
And by doing that, you'd think that are they just going to spend the whole time like flashing back and showing us what happened in between that time? And they thankfully don't do that. I mean, obviously not going to go to any details beyond some like really broad ones. But what they do instead is that they fill the show with world building that often isn't just someone saying what happened. There's little things like even Easter eggs in the background, like newspaper reels. There are just contextual things we get from people speaking. I mean, that you get the idea of like what happened after the end of the book and what happened in like US politics, what happened, like what was the fallout from what happened in New York, and like what life would be like 3 decades later. And that stuff is handled so well.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not got this like attention-seeking thing, which is what I was expecting from this show. Like, where it could so easily be reverent to the book and kind of like constantly keep nudging you in the ribs, saying, "Do you remember this? Do you remember this?" It has a surprisingly naturalistic tone to it. I think like everything seems to follow on in a very expected progression. It's not bombastic. It's not. I mean, it is, but it's not doing the thing where like it's winking at you constantly through the screen. I really enjoyed that. I think one of the greatest things that I think has happened to me with this show is that I didn't know that Damon Lindelof was making it until the week that it aired. Like I knew it existed. I didn't know that it was by the same creator as one of my favorite TV shows ever. And like I was sour on this show up until that point, in a weird contrast to the way Leon felt. So I think I came off quite well with that revelation being so late.
In it being comics adjacent, like with it being what it is, like it's not just comics adjacent. It is comics. I'm about to say it's comics adjacent, but it's not. It's Watchmen. Like I feel like I ought to be more excited about it than I actually am. Like I feel like I'm like looking at myself in the mirror every morning and thinking, what is wrong with you, Greg? Why are you not that hype about Watchmen? And you know what I think it is?
The pod, Greg.
Do you know what I think it is?
Mm.
I think it's because I have to pay for another streaming service to watch it. And honestly,
if I didn't already have Now TV, I think I would buy it for this show specifically.
Yeah, maybe I will.
I like it that much, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna watch it eventually. I'm gonna watch it eventually, and I'm probably gonna really, really, really love it. But I think my barrier is the fact that I don't watch enough TV, and I would pay for Now TV, and you know,
like we said off pod, a good idea would be because it's only 9 episodes. So once the 9th episode is aired, get a free trial, or or get one of those 7-day things that they're always selling for like £1, and then just marathon the series like a Netflix show.
Yeah, I could do that. Sit there for one Saturday and just marathon the whole thing at once. That'd be great.
But like, there's a lot in this that I think you'd really like, Greg, because I think the genius of the show is that it takes the concepts and themes from the book and then evolves them and translates them to now. So whereas it moves away from like Reagan era Cold War anxiety and is now more about white supremacy and racial tension.
Yeah.
I got that
impression from the trailer, to be honest, because there's like everyone wearing the Rorschach mask.
Yeah.
And that had like I don't know if I'm reading this entirely the wrong way, but that had like real KKK vibes.
Oh yeah, well
I think you're on the money there.
Yeah.
But the thing is, it asks a lot of questions. It manages to sort of pull us through with like mystery as well. Yeah. But I think a lot of lessons have been learnt from Lindelof from his from say like Lost, on The Leftovers, where his mystery box isn't in detriment or in the way of like the core character work and the core sort of like main plotting. So yeah, I don't think it's going to get bogged down with that stuff, and I believe that it's taken us in a really interesting and very detailed destination.
Yeah.
I think a good way of thinking about the show, say like in comparison to the film, which the film misses the core concepts, I feel, and themes, but it's very faithful to the book, but just like in word only. And like I think it was Alan Sepinwall had a quote which was which this is talking about the film in relation to the show, where it was like someone proving they could trace over a Picasso painting without understanding what the original artist was doing with his strange rendering of the human anatomy. And I think that I mean I get enjoyment from that movie, but it's because it's a companion piece to the book that I love so much.
Yeah.
There's a lot in there that has always bothered me and bothers me more and more every time I think about it. But I think that this show is way better than it has any reason to be, and I am excited, but now trepidatious, if that's a word. I'm walking in trepidation, as I'm fearful that we're going to get to episode 9, it's going to be great, but then there's either going to be, not everything's going to be wrapped up, or we get a season 2 and it starts to lose steam because it's not as tight. But these are tomorrow's worries, and for the time being, I'm really enjoying it. And I mean, if all of it didn't even pull you in, the score's done by 9 Inch Nails. Like,
oh yeah, Trent Reznor. Yeah, you told me.
Reznor and Atticus Ross are doing the score. I think it's brilliant.
Yeah, I think the other part of the other pip in the core of why I've not gotten round to it yet is the fact that I'm just not that much of a TV guy, as you guys know. Like, you're the TV guys.
I'm definitely not a TV guy, Greg. And like, you know how much it takes for me to want to binge something, but I feel like if this was out, dropped in one go on Netflix, I would have binged my way through it. Like, I'm that excited about it. Like to echo what Leon was saying about about the mystery, for example. What Leon was saying about it being better than it has any right to be. Like, it's doing a thing where its mysteries aren't carrots on a stick. It's not like dangling in front of you to like drag you along. It's kind of, I don't know. I feel like it's just part of the world. I think he's withholding just the right amount to not to like have you salivating over what's the end goal, but to have you like engaged with the world building. Like, one interesting touch point that I felt while watching it was like, it's almost like they had the pieces of a Watchmen board game. You know, like when you get to create your own story out of the framework of like a world building tool set. Yeah. And they've done that. They've taken that, fast forwarded it, like Leon said, evolved it forward like 30, 40 years, and then had this thought experiment about what those pieces left behind can build into this new story. And
like D&D.
It's done so well. Yeah, essentially.
Yeah.
Like, and it's already such a vibrant world from the comics, and I don't know, you get these visions of like of the world growing over those decades and seeing how it's changed. It's really good.
See, I'm sitting here like saying what I'm saying, feigning how cold. Like, I'm exaggerating a little bit of how cold I'm towards. Like, I know I'm eventually going to watch it, and I am going to get the Now TV thing, and I'm going to binge it. But I want you guys to talk about it, because you guys watch. Even though you say you're not much of a TV guy, I still think you watch more TV than I do, Ray. Honestly,
fair enough. Yeah.
So other than that, I mean, what other media have we consumed in the past 2 weeks? I suppose
I've got two things I'll zip through at the end, but I'll talk about something major. But just before I leave Watchmen, I have to say that Regina King, who plays the lead character, she is phenomenal. She is phenomenal in the show, and one of the great reasons to watch it. Like, she's just completely owning on every level, playing quite a complex character, which is really nice to see.
Yeah, in typical Watchmen fashion, like, it's all about shades of grey. There's no stark black and white, and like, she's a really good indication of that.
Yeah, most definitely. And the next show is one that's weird to speak about, because we're in a weird area. But as I've recently been transatlantic, I feel we have to discuss the armored elephant in the room that divides our two nations, because a lot of Americans listen to this. But like, the big overlord Disney dropped their streaming service that is going to consume us all when it reaches our territories.
You got to remember that all these other places, Amazon, Disney, they'd be nothing without Netflix.
Yeah. Netflix pulled them up.
Just to reference a really awful meme that Leon showed me the other day.
Is that the TMNT one?
Yeah, it's like Master Splinter is Netflix, and it's a really touching picture of Splinter and 4 baby turtles, and then like there's a picture below that of Splinter and 4 teenage turtles, and it's like, how he has nurtured them and turned them into what they are, like helped them grow and become the heroes that they are. And it's basically a comment on Splinter as a father figure, basically. But what somebody's done is they've put Netflix over Splinter, and then they've put like the names of other streaming services above the other 4 turtles. And my God.
Well, it's like they were all nascent little startups when Netflix joined the scene.
If I cringe any harder, I'll turn into a black hole. I will.
But yeah, after the help from Master Netflix, Disney Plus has finally exploded, and one of the big draws of that with it having lots of like their old shows on there, their old movies on there. Apparently, it has all of Star Wars, the original trilogy in 4K and HDR and McClunky, like all of that. So I'm looking forward to watching that actually, because that sounds amazing. Having the OT looking as great as that.
I heard they messed with the hand shoots first thing again.
Yeah, that's the McClunky thing that Leon mentioned.
Yeah.
Which is hilarious.
How it's handled, but it's that was the big thing of that weekend. But the other big thing is that they have a little show called The Mandalorian, and I've seen the first 2 episodes of The Mandalorian, and it's interesting because this is the big thing where, because of different licensing things happening over here, the UK hasn't got Disney Plus and won't get it until the end of March. And this is one of the main things that people are like mad about. Like, there's people angry at Disney that they can't pay them money to watch their new Star Wars show. And yeah, upon watching the first episode, it was odd because I would say it was quite a semi-downbeat start. It's got a bunch of the stuff from the trailer where a Mandalorian who like pretty much, I'm not going to go into like deep Star Wars lore or whatever, like the Fets. He looks like one of the Fets, but
he's a Mandalorian bounty hunter.
Yeah.
He
wears a helmet, has like flamethrower things on his arms, and he goes around grabbing people. And apparently, which is in the trailer, so it's not a spoiler, the carbonite thing wasn't just a savage punishment for Han in Empire Strikes Back. Apparently, it's what they do to everyone, which feels like a very I watch Star Wars as I grew up thing, and not probably what was intended. But that's neither here nor there.
I got the impression that it's what they do to everyone. Like, I felt like when I watch Return of the Jedi and Empire Strikes Back, I feel like that is like a stereotypical gangster punishment on Tatooine, like when you get thrown into the river with concrete boots on, you know.
Yeah, I guess so. If anything, it seems just more like a convenient business decision, so I guess it makes sense from that point of view.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, it's quite a downbeat start because it introduces you to sort of world, and if you've seen Rogue One, you know sort of what it looks like. It's so if Rogue One is it's the same period of time. It's the same period of time, isn't it? Yeah. So after Jedi.
Rogue One's pre.
And then this is after. Yeah. Anyway, it has that sort of Rogue One look. It's all dusty, sandy from the planets we're looking at. And yeah, it just sort of builds this world. We have this guy who doesn't speak much, and he's going around being a complete badass and stuff. And I was like, yeah, this is cool, ever. But I think the thing that grabbed me initially is the production values. They are immense. Like, this is a TV show, and like one of the highest budgeted TV shows just ended this year, Game of Thrones. And Game of Thrones looks amazing. They did some incredible things for the realm of TV, and especially in the later seasons, they had more time, bigger budget. But even then, it's like, this is TV show CGI. But watching The Mandalorian, that is movie CGI.
Those are movie
sets and visual effects.
Well, Disney money, Star Wars money.
Yeah, it is.
They got Heineke money.
Yeah, apparently it's like 120 million for this first season.
You make it sound a little bit spaghetti westerny.
It is in a way, and I'm leading on to that. Like the look of it is unbelievable, and like not just the visual effects, but the sets, the design. It all feels like they've shot a movie and then they said, "Oh, we've still got all this stuff. Do you want to take it?" Because everything feels like real. Like these puppets, they bring back puppets, and they're like really cool. And I'm all for bringing back the puppet. Like, sometimes when you want an alien, you want it to be tangible and puppety, and they bring back puppets in this, and it's really cool. And they seem to fill like the supporting cast with like really cool character actors and a character director. Because Nick Nolte has a part in these first 2 episodes. Not going to say who he is, what he does, but he's cool. He's really cool. Werner Herzog plays. I mean, you've probably seen him in the trailer. He plays a character. It's like he's playing himself, but in Star Wars land, and it's cool. It's cool. I've got no complaints from that. But yeah, because it's in this sort of messed up period of time, and everyone's sort of scattered to the winds. It does have that spaghetti western vibe. But one of the things that I think is one of the biggest boons for the show, and you see it more in the second episode, though the first episode does lay the groundwork for it, is that it feels like animation at times. And like Dave Filoni directed the first episode and is a producer on the show, and he's obviously the showrunner of the Clone Wars TV show and the Rebels, Rebels, right? Which are like they're like highly lauded Star Wars animations from the last decade, and yeah, like a lot of the framing, a lot of the action, the fact that we get lots of, because the Mandalorian himself is mostly alone, and just from a guy who walks around with a helmet all the time, you know, he's not Nathan Drake or anything. He's not just dropping witty banter constantly. So you have lots of scenes, big stretches of the show where there's not much dialogue at all, if any, but and everything's conveyed in action and tone, and that part really works well. And even like down to the fact that the runtimes are 30 minutes instead of like hour long, it definitely feels like they've taken a lot of good lessons from animation, and I get quite a big like Samurai Jack vibe from it, in a lot of ways actually, where you have a central character who isn't the most verbose person, who is trying to do one thing, is being beset on by loads of random bad guys, and is a master in their craft, but is still quite human and messes up from time to time, and comes across and meets all these colourful, interesting people and robots. And it's like live action Samurai Jack. Not so much in terms of the action, but in terms of the general feel and flow of the world. And yeah, that element is what kept me going really with the first episode, which the first episode's all right, but I don't think it was amazing. But then I think the second episode worked on the foundations of the first episode and sort of pulled me through and kept me going. And the second episode was directed by the director of Dope, whose name I can't remember at the moment, but I will correct it in the notes or so. But like, there's a really nice feel in there. We meet some other Star Wars-y races that we've met before, but it's sort of from a different vantage point. And I think what it feels like with this show, because it's chapter-based as well, it isn't like Star Wars Mission of the Week. It's like one story being continued each episode. And I think what we're going to see is sort of like, which pulls it back to this very podcast we're on. It feels like a run, like a cool comic book run of like just this dude on this mission, and things have just gone south, and you just get deeper and deeper and deeper into the weird and dark underbelly of this world, especially a world which is sort of now lawless following the events of the movies that have preceded it.
Yeah,
that it's quite interesting, and the music as well, because the score for that is done by another person that I love, Ludwig Göransson, who did like Black Panther, Creed, and like loads of other things, and it's weird because I hear some of the out of all the scores he's done before this, I hear some of the Creed score in this, especially the Rocky-inspired Creed bits. There's like the main theme sounds like the Rocky Creed 1 tracks, and in such an interesting way that the first time I heard it, I was like, this is weird. But by the second episode, I was like, yeah, this is working for me. So I'm not sure what they're doing, but it's working for me.
I know exactly what they're doing. Shared universe.
That would be quite cool.
That's what they're doing. They're Creed and Star Wars. Shared universe.
I would like to see the Mandalorian running up those steps in Philadelphia. But
the Mandalorian in a boxing ring.
The thing is, though, like like I mentioned before, they don't make him infallible, and I think that's how you humanize a character whose face you're never ever going to see. Yeah, I think that Pedro Pascal does a great job. I think that this is a show that I have a feeling that each episode is going to be better than the last, just as it gets deeper and deeper into its world. And I think the very unfortunate thing is that you can go on Facebook right now if you live in the UK and have like the final shots of episode 1 up. And then because episode 2 was out within a week of the first episode, so many shots from that are already on Facebook and Twitter and stuff that by the time it gets here, all the fun is going to be spoiled because it's going to be memed.
But that's what happens, right?
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
The internet is international, even if your streaming service isn't. It's an unfortunate symptom of the world we live in.
This is where I'm going to be you, Greg, and say, even when Disney Plus is released in the UK, I don't think there's anything on that platform that's drawing me enough to actually pay for it, which is why I'm probably going to get to this quite late.
I think it's the Marvel stuff for me that's even making me consider it right now.
And that stuff's not around until
exactly
winter next year.
Yeah, I'm not going to be an early adapter.
I would say that
an early adopter.
The show is cool, and when it finally comes to these shows, just check it out. And if you're in America, you're probably watching it already.
Yeah.
To be fair, the Samurai Jack connection has already got me more excited than I thought. So
they're putting Samurai Jack on there.
And then the last two things I'll rush over because one of them you already spoken already. Teen Titans Go to the Movies. I finally caught that while I was on my journeys. And that's a movie that I heard good things about it in the year it came out last year. But I never got around to watching it. And then by the end of the year, we got Spider-Verse, and that sort of rendered every other movie didn't exist.
Yeah.
But going back, Teen Titans Go to the Movies is pretty good. It's pretty good. Like, I went into it as a fan of the original Teen Titans show, which I used to watch on Cartoon Network back in the day, and I bailed when they relaunched it as Teen Titans Go because it looked more kiddie and it looked more like a comedy show, whereas the original show wasn't even like, I guess it was a bit gritty, but it was still quite a kid show to a degree. But Teen Titans Go, all their eyes like became super anime, like more so than normal Teen Titans, and it seemed more jokey, and I just bounced off it. And at that time, it's not what I was like looking for. But that was probably a mistake because the film is like witty, subversive. It's like supremely self-aware, and at least in one scene, it's incredibly dark. But in like funny, but really dark joke that he make. But going back, it sounds like the show is more like that. Like it's more irreverent and more meta. Because this thing, it's a big send-up of comics, comic book movies in general, and like loads of other different pop culture things. And like the other Warner Brothers movies, animations that we've had in recent years, say like a Lego Movie and Lego Batman, this film manages to take in the whole sort of history and universe and WB's different IPs and treat them with love and affection, but also poke fun at everything. and they poke fun at everything from like the Snyderification of a bunch of movies. They poke fun at other film history, at themselves, with like the having a theme song, and like it's I guess in a way you could call it a musical because it has a few musical numbers in it, as it's the classic tradition of like an animated comedy musical. But I think that it manages to handle all of those things, and it's quite despite being fairly subversive and having jokes for adults as well as kids, it's quite a loving film and quite pure. And yeah, it's just a fun movie. It's like you're in and out in like 80 minutes or so. And I'd highly recommend it. It's directed by Peter Ryder Mitchell and Aaron Horvath, who are like producers and half of the creators of the show. But yeah, if you see it on a streaming platform, definitely press play on it because it's really good.
It will be something that I will be aiming to watch. It's on my never-ending list of things I'm aiming to watch.
I'd recommend it, and it points to, I think Warner Brothers are doing some interesting things with their IPs, like Joker, which you guys have already spoken about. But I would just briefly say that overall I enjoyed it. Philip tries to say everything, which ultimately means it says nothing. It goes from being a subversive character study to didactic fantasy, I found. Phoenix is great in it. The movie looks amazing. It wears its Scorsese-era movies influences on its sleeve. And I wouldn't mind if DC made more of these one-shot type movies where they just crib from iconic films from different eras.
Yeah, I'm down with that. And I have to agree with everything you said, because that's pretty much like a distilled version of everything I think we've already thought about it. So yeah. There's one more thing I wanted to mention before we actually move on to comics, because, you know, the point of this podcast is comics, right? And we're like 40 odd minutes in and we haven't talked about comics yet. Only like tangentially. Yeah, only tangentially. But I just because I'm a big Pokemon guy. I like playing the Pokemon games, and I just wanted to mention that I bought Pokemon Sword and Shield. I'm having a really good time with it. I don't understand the big deal. Like, I've been playing Pokemon games for years and years, and I get it, you have your favourites and whatever, but train something else, you know? Like, there's a whole bunch of new Pokemon being added to the game, and you want something from 10 years ago.
To be clear, you enjoy the game and you're making a comment on all the haters right now, right? Because that wasn't super clear. Okay.
Yeah,
good.
so I'm making a comment on the fact that, like, people seem to have this thing about... Basically, the whole story is that the game does not have every single Pokemon ever in it. And everyone wanted the game to have every single Pokemon ever. They wanted... there's no national dex in this. So the national dex in previous games is like the national Pokedex. So once you get to the end of the game, like the end game is you get to collect Pokemon from other regions now, and you can transfer them up from other games and trade them with friends and catch them in events in the game, and people enjoy that, and people like to be able to have their favorites from previous games and things like that. But in this game, they've not included it, and a lot of people seem to be very angry about the fact that a lot of these Pokemon aren't included, and I'm struggling to understand why, to be honest.
I don't know, man. Because I think we might have talked about this off cast, but like, I was never one who felt like I had to catch them all. I never wanted to like max out all my Pokemon and stuff. If they've given me less crap to do, I'm actually quite thankful for that. Like, give me less of the Pokemon. I'm cool with it.
Well, I think it's more down to the fact that, like, it's not about having less to do, because it's, you know,
for me it is. Give me less to do. Just let me enjoy the game.
I mean, like,
less faff to do.
Like, the burden of choice, like choosing what you're gonna train, like, because when I pick Pokemon to train, I pick 6 and I max out those 6, and maybe I'll max out a few others that I can swap in and out within that team of 6. But like the burden of choice, like you've got so many to choose from. Where do you start? Like, what do you do? Like, if I've got a new game with new Pokemon in a new region, I want to train the new ones. I want to see what they do. Like, where's your sense of wonder? Why do you want the old and comfortable when you can, like, you've got this whole new region with all these new monsters that you can train and explore?
I don't know. I think you're right on that account, and I think also the other argument that the haters are making, like, I think you can tell that a lot of entitled gamers don't know how game development works. They don't, like, the ones who complain about asset reuse or like pop in or like minor jagged shadows and stuff, like, they don't understand how hard this work is.
Yeah,
they don't understand the amount of effort and love and like energy that goes into creating something like this. And I don't know, I'm not here to listen to that nonsense. Just enjoy the game.
They're complaining about that, but I feel like that is a symptom of the fact that they don't have what they want. So I think they're picking fault with the game now, and they're picking things out and nitpicking because of the fact that they haven't got all the Pokemon in the game.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that they wanted, the fact that
Pokemon,
that
was the trigger to help them. Like,
that was the catalyst that kind of like, set off the mood slime, if you like. So, but there we go. Yeah. So that was the bad juju that set off the mood slime, and now we've got this big bubbling pot of mood slime. RE Ghostbusters too, and there we are. So, but I'm really enjoying the new Pokemon games. I think they're great, and I think if you want something cool to play and you like Pokemon games, then play the Pokemon games. I'm not very good at talking about games. I'm better at talking about comics, but yeah, there we go.
Just one thing I want to chime in with is just like everyone who I know who has been playing, because I haven't bought it because I don't think I can spare the time to like dedicate to it. I don't think I'll get as much out of it as the cost of the game asks from me. But I gather like the Englishness, the Scottishness, like just the general Britishness of the game is really interesting and fun.
Oh, it is, yeah.
And like, engaging.
It's like I've been sat playing it on the big TV, and every time I'm just like, oh my god, look, there's a cup of tea on the table, and things like that. And
people calling each other mate and stuff. Like, it sounds great. I think there's. It's like, I gather there's a lot to love about it.
I don't know if that's localization, and they've just like really gone for it with the localization, or if it's going to be like that worldwide. Because I would love it to be like that worldwide. Like all these American people playing it. And the English is like super English, like UK English.
I would assume it's the same English as for the American like English versions. But I'd love to see when, for example, Legends of Localization do a analysis of the Japanese compared to the English. I'd be really curious to see what kind of translation decisions they made.
Super like super UK English. Like. I'd love to hear from you, actually. If you're playing this in the US, tell me, is it that English? Or
if you're listening in Japan, let us know if there's some, like, if there's things that we'd be missing not seeing original Japanese or the localization.
Because it feels like it's super geared up towards the UK. Massively geared up. But it's great, it's fantastic. I love it. I'm enjoying it massively. So, there we go. I just wanted to be positive about that game because of the amount of negativity swirling about the internet about it at the moment, and I felt like I needed to just say something nice about it, But yeah. So finally, a good 40 minutes into the 50 minutes into the podcast, jeez, and we're actually going to start talking about comics. So the first thing that I wanted to talk about, one that I read last week, was Punisher Soviet. Now, this is Garth Ennis on the Punisher again. And it's pretty cool. It's a pretty cool ride. Now, so like this is Garth Ennis. This is the co-creator of The Boys and Preacher. I'll just read the blurb. Garth Ennis is back at Marvel and writing The Punisher again, this time with art phenom Jason Burrows of Moon Knight 303 and Crossed at his side. A dozen Russian mobsters lie dead at the Punisher's feet, and he wasn't the one who pulled the trigger. and if you know Frank Castle, you know this doesn't necessarily set his mind at ease. Who is in New York decimating the Russian mob, and can it be long before they come into conflict with Frank? So it's called Punisher Soviet, and what's taking place right now in the comic is taking place in modern day. But from reading the first issue, I'm thinking this has ties to Frank's past in some way. So someone's doing the Punisher's job for him, I guess, is the question, like the kind of thing at the beginning of this comic, like someone's doing the Punisher's job for him. And it is Punisher versus the Russian mob. So, like, the interesting thing here is what conflict could arise between the Punisher facing someone doing something very similar to him. Like, how does he deal with another one of him? Like, does he, is he gonna... This is like him looking in the mirror a little bit, I guess, is the impression I got from the first issue. And the conflict that could arise from that, maybe. It's all up in the air at the minute because we're only one issue in, but this is me speculating. So can Frank trust this man? Let's find out, It's got this like really gritty crime thriller quality about it in the writing and everything, which I really like. I do enjoy me some Punisher comics in the same way that I might enjoy a movie like Death Wish, like the 1970s Death Wish movies. It's like the catharsis that you get from watching bad things happen to bad people, if that makes sense. And I know that two wrongs don't necessarily make a right, but seeing this eye for an eye justice sometimes, I don't know, sometimes it scratches an itch. I'm not saying that, it's a good thing that a guy is out killing killers, and I'm not saying that I necessarily agree with all of it, but what I'm saying is it scratches an itch and it makes me feel, I don't know, I get this like this true justice feeling from it, and sometimes I quite enjoy reading the comics because of that. And I do enjoy the Punisher as a character, actually. I like Frank Castle as a character. I like it when they get a bit more complex with him, like in the comic that I read, the Punisher comic that I talked about on here before, is where he was in Vietnam, like the Punisher's first kill, or so to speak, the first time he ever took a life. And it just, I don't know, it just gives you this like this feeling that the balance is preserved, and it's the whole revenge fantasy thing, right? And I do like the grittiness of this comic in the way that it is framed, and I like that it has a noir edge with the narration. Like, we're sitting in a bar, and Frank is painting this picture for us, and he's, we're getting this story from him, and it's this whole, like, this narration thing, like a noir story, which is kind of pretty cool. And the stark realism and clean lines of the art, the sharpness that it has about it, and the muted color tones and everything, they keep it grounded, and it feels it's like hyper. It's realism, but it's also like it's realism to a point. Very similar to Rodriguez's art on Locke and Key that we'll come on to later, if that makes sense to you. It's fun, but it's not too fun because it is the Punisher after all. And there's some really wonderful detail in the pages, and there's some particularly like beautiful injury detail. Now I say beautiful, but yeah. So like when there's a point in the book where there's a massive explosion, and you've got a guy that has been caught in the explosion, and he is a complete mess. And the comic makes no secret of the fact that he's a complete mess. Doesn't hold anything back. Like, skin coming off, bones showing, that kind of mess, And I just think it's great that level of detail in the art, and the level of detail in the art elsewhere as well. Like some of the there's like panels where there's a car crash and you just get like the complete crumple of the vehicle and everything, and like little bits of like glass and debris everywhere and stuff, and it's that level. That's what I love about this artwork, I guess. It's me being a sucker for debris again, like I am with other artists, where I like art that's like got this like kind of like crust about it, and lots of like kind of like small particles and things like that. I'm very into my hyper detailed stuff, so like James Stokoe, I mean, you guys have seen James Stocko's art, right?
Yeah.
So you know what I'm talking
detail.
about when I say crust, as I've said on this podcast before, when I'm talking about like little particles and things. Like when you see someone draw a broken window, but they don't just draw a broken window, they draw the fist going through the window and they draw all the little pieces of glass and things like that. And that's what I love. And this is the same in this, and that translates to the injury detail in some of the parts of the book. Yeah, and it's a great story, and we get a little bit of a look at the Punisher and his methods. And yeah, I mean, we know he's not a nice man. He's not supposed to be a nice man. And, he's not a nice man and he does not nice things, but he does it to help you sleep at night, or so he says to himself anyway. And that is Punisher Soviet. And yeah, it's pretty enjoyable. And I would recommend it, actually, and that's issue 1. And I want this to go deep. I want to, I want more of it, because I like my gangster stories. I like my Punisher stories. Like I think I've mentioned on the cast before, I've been watching a lot of like Narcos and things like that. Did I tell you guys about that? Yeah, that kind of. So that kind of stuff kind of appeals to me anyway on a level. And that is written by Garth Ennis, pencils by Jason Burrows, inks by Guillermo Ortega, colours by Nolan Woodard, and letters by Rob Steen.
Can I just shout, because I haven't read the comic, but can I just shout out the cover by Paulo Rivera, which is gorgeous, like this noir sort of shady, shadowy image of like the Punisher lit from the top, so his eyes are covered in shadow, and like there's some guy who I assume is in the comic, but like they're both holding guns that have just recently been fired, and there's like a connecting smoke between the barrels of each of the guns. It's really cool.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the cover I have with the hammer and sickle in the background.
Yeah,
I love the font used on it and everything. Now, obviously, it's got the hammer and sickle motif and everything, and it is called Punisher Soviet. So I'm hoping they go back in time at some point, and they go back to Soviet Russia, because I'd hate for it to be called Punisher Soviet and have a hammer and sickle on it, and the only reason for that to be the Russian connection, because all of that's been over and done with for a long, long time. So I'd like them to go back in time, and maybe some of it takes place in the 80s or the late 70s or something, which would be pretty cool. Moving on from there, we have the second book in the Hill House Comics line. Now, this is the first of 2 Joe Hill books that we're going to be talking about today, and this is the Dollhouse Family. This is the second book in the Hill House Comics line, the second book to hit the shelves in as many months. Yeah, I'm right in saying that. It's the Hill House Comics pop-up line that has been done via DC Black Label that DC are putting out. It's like this pop-up horror comics line, curated, and some of it is created by Joe Hill himself. So this is basically coming out all guns blazing. I mean, like the second one in the line, and it's packs a punch. I'm gonna say it. I like this better than Basket Full of Heads. So, well, do I like it better, or do I like it for different reasons? We'll see. But I mean, I love both of them. I just. This I think this appeals to me more, and you're about to find out why. So
I feel like this gives you more right off the bat.
Yeah.
But yeah, carry on.
So to read the blurb, on Alice's 6th birthday, her dying great aunt sent her the birthday gift she didn't know she always wanted: a big, beautiful 19th century dollhouse, complete with a family of antique dolls. In no time at all, the dollhouse isn't just Alice's favourite toy; it's her whole world. And soon, young Alice learns she can enter the house to visit a new group of friends straight out of a heartwarming children's novel, The Dollhouse Family. But while the Dollhouse Family welcome her with open arms, in the real world, her family's life is becoming much more complicated. And deep within the dollhouse's twisting halls, the Black Room waits, with an offer to Alice. The house can fix all this, the Black Room says. All she has to do is say the words. So, yeah, I mean, long-time collaborators... So, to finish the rest of the blurb, long-time collaborators Mike Carey and Peter Gross are joined by Vince Locke to bring their most horrifying vision yet to Hill House Comics. A story that echoes into centuries past, into Alice's tormented future, and into the beating heart of the madness that makes up our world, literally. Also, it includes Chapter 2 of Sea Dogs, which I think I mentioned in the last cast, was like kind of the thing that was like making me buy these books. Because, I mean, I would buy them anyway, but I think it was just like I think I was slightly annoyed, wasn't I, Ray, about the fact that they were sticking like a chunk of another story at the end of each one, so that I'd have to buy every single one to read.
You
the
were,
story.
we both were, and I'm particularly annoyed at the at how much Sea Dogs we get in this, or should I say how little Sea Dogs we get in this one.
Yeah, I know, it's so irritating, isn't it? But
Yep.
it's also really good because I love Sea Dogs. But yeah. So yeah, to give you the full creative team for this one, we've got written by M.R. Carey, layouts by Peter Gross, finishes by Vince Locke, colours by Chris Peter, letters by Todd Klein, includes Sea Dogs by Joe Hill, written by Joe Hill, art by Dan McDade, colours by John Callis, and letters by Wes Abbott. So, yeah, I'm going to open with the fact that I love where this story is going. I love the mystery, the historical elements, the cosmic horror edge that we have here at the beginning of the book. And I like how all these threads are going to converge, or how it looks like all these threads are going to converge. I like the forces at work here, and this is what has me interested, because it kind of like, as well as telling the story and telling me that, you know, the weird thing that is happening and showing me the weird thing that's happening, it's explaining it. and that for me is like the yes, because I'm getting my little bit of, you know, I'm getting my horror story, and I'm also getting my peek into what this is and why this is, you know, which I kind of, yes, and it's like there's some kind of evil force at work as part of the Dollhouse, and it kind of speaks to me on multiple levels, as you guys are probably aware, because you know I'm a big Lovecraft guy, and like I love my Lovecraftian horror and my cosmic horror, and this kind of has that, which I really, really like. It has definite shades of Locke and Key as well, I must say. Like,
yeah, I picked up some of that.
Yeah, there's a little bit of Lockhouse in there. So, I mean, like, who else read? You read this, didn't you, Leon?
Yeah, I did.
So like, what's your impressions of this then?
I thought it was a pretty solid hook. You know, my common complaints on every episode I'm on about issue ones, and
Yeah,
how often it just feels like only a taste. And I think this one manages to have a very good setup in there.
yeah,
Especially with its multiple timelines.
mm.
And I think we get a complete chapter in this first issue, and that works better for me than here's a sprinkle of the world and a bit of the mystery, and more so this is what's going on, and we're going to end you with something fucked up. And I'm like, okay, I'm in.
It has a very definite end, doesn't it?
Yeah, I really like that about.
Sorry, I couldn't help but laugh at myself there.
Yeah, don't you also get like sort of Vertigo vibes from it, but like from last decade, like the aughts?
Kind of.
And it's the layout and the way it looks. I mean, in a good way.
Yeah.
But I was getting that sort of nostalgia from it.
I don't know. It didn't have enough punk going on. There weren't enough safety pins in its jacket.
See, there's only a handful of those that I want. Read, I should say.
Yeah.
It reminds me of a lot of the books I was reading last decade.
I mean, I can definitely see where you're coming from, but for me, it didn't have enough, like, spit in your face. Because Vertigo had a lot of spit in your face, I think. if I'm right. I mean, that's the way I interpret it anyway. But yeah, I definitely get where you're coming from. I mean, like, it's this whole twisted fairy tale fantasy thing, which kind of hits on a lot of that, and it actually feels quite Image Comics as well, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's funny.
Yeah.
With like the main story being set in England.
Yeah, definitely. The art is like absolutely gorgeous. It has this like quality of like an old children's book, like old children's book illustrations, and also at the same time it has the quality of the like these 18th century etchings. So it kind of does both at once. It like embodies both spirits. It kind of lends itself beautifully to both threads of the tale that way, because when we are in the kind of is it the 70s, isn't it?
I believe it starts in 79 and then about 4 years pass.
Yeah, so like when we're in the late 70s and the 80s, it's a little more like, well, the present in this book, shall we say. It takes on the children's book quality, the old style children's book illustration, and but also like the artwork stays very much the same, but when it goes back in time, it takes on that 18th century etching quality, but the artwork doesn't really change at all. It just, you feel differently about it because of what it's describing, and I quite like that about it. Like, it's very chameleonic in that way. It kind of like flips between the two moods very well, and it works very well with both threads of the story. That's what I thought anyway. And it's like these like fine lines and high detail. Especially, I mean, when they're in the dollhouse as well, that's when it gets really children's book, and that's really cool. Because when they're in the dollhouse, the backgrounds go white, and you get these kind of like these. It almost like, it has this almost like watercolor quality, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Flicking through the book now, looking for an example.
Like the colors transition from the white out to the background color.
Yeah,
it does
exactly.
Have that sort of watercolor painting.
So it's like a watercolor painting on a page of a children's book. Like, you know, like when you have these like these old children's books, and like I'm thinking like old copies of Alice in Wonderland or something. And you'll have like writing on one side, then on the other side you'll have this little watercolor painting of like the hair or something like that.
Yeah.
The Mad Hatter.
Like the old like lithographic images you'd get in old like Victorian books, for example.
Yes. And then it does the etching thing with like the old style like etchings or whatever that you will get, and that's like the 18th century etching stuff comes up when they go back in time, but it's the same art style, it's the same artists, it just takes on a different quality because it's describing something different, and they don't alter the style in any way, and it just works for both threads so well, like two sides of a coin. It's great. And yeah, it just has this twisted fairy tale fantasy element that I love. It's really cool. And yeah, Hill House Comics has come out of the gates all guns blazing as far as I'm concerned. I mean, like, that's all I've got to say about it, because I actually thought it was brilliant. I really enjoyed it, and the cosmic horror element at the beginning has me hooked. You've got this kind of like this character that kind of falls to earth, and do you know what my first thought was when I looked at the fourth panel on the first page, when you see like this cosmic creature, this black shadow with like lightning in its eyes, all the fire around it and everything else? My first thought was curse words, because I was thinking of the bad guy from Curse Words, Syzygy, the like multicolored magic guy who's also a black hole, like him. He's kind of like, he looks like a black hole. That was my first thing, like Syzygy's in this, but yeah, it's that kind of kind of character design. That's really cool. I really enjoyed it. Yeah, so I am all for the Dollhouse Family, and I think if the rest of Hill House Comics continues to be this strong, then yeah, it's going to do really well. So I guess that brings us on to our third and final book today, which was a new one-shot in the Locke and Key universe, and that is well, it's on IDW Comics, of course, but this is Locke and Key Dog Days. Your creative team on this one is you've written by Joe Hill, art by Gabriel Rodriguez, colours by Jay Fotos, and letters by Sean Lee. You've also got a second story in here called Nailed It, which is Joe Hill, Gabriel Rodriguez, Jay Fotos, and on letters this time you've got Robbie Robbins. And not that there is a lot of lettering in that second one. I think there's only like one speech bubble right at the very end. And a little bit of logo design and stuff, but it's it's really cool. It's like it's an awesome book. Let's start with Dog Days. So all of us read this, right?
Yeah, I was very excited for this one.
This is the one that all three of us read, and so this comic was absolutely fantastic fun. I was going to say that first of all. So the blurb here, we've got 2 new stories by creators Joe Hill and Gabriel Rodriguez, Nailed It and Dog Days. Plus a behind-the-scenes tease of the coming TV series and a 5-page preview of an all-new series by Hill and artist Martin Simmons, which is it Dying is Easy? Which is the it's it didn't vibe well with me. I wasn't into it. The preview didn't do anything for me for that, but we'll come on to that. But yeah, I mean, so Dog Days is this kind of like this gorgeous, cute little story from the get-go, and like even the book actually has this like fantastically cute cover of this kind of like warped corgi face, like swimming in the water trying to snatch a key with 2 kids fishing. Is it a corgi? I think it's a corgi, isn't it?
Oh, you're asking the wrong person, mate.
Looks like a corgi. It looks like a corgi.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really freaky looking dog because it's all like swizzled around in the water.
Yeah, but I feel like it's a corgi. It looks like a corgi to me. The guy at the comic shop when he sold me it told me he thought it was a Shiba Inu, but I was like, nah, man, that's a corgi. It's got stubby ass little legs.
I mean, it's generic dog to me. It's a dog, and they're all the same.
Yeah. How dare you?
Very easily.
But yeah, no, it was great fun. The cover's fantastic, like I was just saying there. It's like this dog in the water, and I love it. It wasn't quite what I was expecting it to be. Because I wanted, I think I was talking to you about this last time, Ray, wasn't I? That I wanted a silent story about a dog trying out different keys.
Yeah, it's not quite that.
No, but yeah, it's a dog playing with keys anyway. But yeah, it's like you get these. It's a short story comprised of 7 5-panel comics. Each 5-panel comic is kind of laid out vertically, and you've got like a gag or a punchline at the bottom of each one. So it's like a 5-panel joke comic kind of thing that you might, like a newspaper strip almost, I guess is the vibe I got from it. And I do love the way it's laid out even like an old newspaper strip or like an old vertical comic strip. And it's each 5 panels is laid over a background image that kind of ties into that part. It forms part of the story. And the art has this kind of like old cartoon strip quality that I love, with these kind of like goofy cartoon strip looking kids doing goofy things.
Yeah, kind of like old Archie / like the Little Rascals kind of thing.
Yeah. It's got that kind of like newspaper strip kind of like goofy cartoon kids, which I love. And as you're reading it, like, one of the kids just seems a lot weirder than the other 2. And well, like the whole thing is that this kid. I mean, is it spoilers if I do this? Should I say it?
I don't think it's a spoiler to reveal. I think it's very clear from the get-go, but
it's quite evident. But yeah,
it's quite evident, but it also it seeds it very slowly. I think, but I don't think it's a spoiler to mention what the conceit is.
It seeds it slowly, but the whole point is that this dog has used one of the keys and has become a kid for a day, and is hanging out with the other two boys, and he basically, like, they talk about what they enjoy doing, or they're doing something, and this kid will be doing something like major weird, or say something major weird at the that's kind of like the structure of each kind of like 5-panel comic, because it's like it's 5 panels including the background, so you've got like 4 and then 5 is the background, but it's like each one kind of like the end part is like this kid saying something like really weird that the other two kids are like, but then you realise, oh, he's a dog, kind of thing, like drinking from the toilet and all that kind of stuff, and but yeah, it's really cute in that way, and it's kind of like I just like the idea of it. I like the innocence of it, actually. Like for a Lock and Key story, it's got a lot of innocence about it, and a lot of heart. And it's something that I really enjoyed about it, actually. And then I like at the very end that the other two kids are like, let's be dogs. And then they're all dogs together. And yeah, it's just such a sweet book. And yeah, it's just gorgeous in that way. So Ray, I mean, like, what were your feelings of the first story? So we'll just go through, like, you let you and Leon discuss a little bit.
I mean, I absolutely loved the opening story. For a start, it opens on like a black and white line art page of, well, it says the story so far, and it shows the dilapidated remains of Key House, which is like this gorgeous line art that I really liked. And then it very quickly goes into, like you said, the however many pages it is of this four panels on top of like a contextual splash page overlaid. And I really like the setup, because, like you said, it is basically a series of almost separate comics that would, maybe get one per day in a newspaper. Yeah. But like this really heavily detailed and really like gorgeously colored in, like little panels on the foreground, and then a really beautiful splash page in the background, which always has more detail than every time I look at the background, I find more detail in it than I did the time before, Like, for example, on page 1, because I was so busy focusing on what was happening in the foreground and trying to piece together what was going on with this weird kid who's, behaving slightly animalistic. The next time I read it through, I noticed that the shimmer in the water is in the shape of his face, like staring at his own reflection in the water, which is, like beautiful little details like that. Yeah. And I like that, how you said each one is basically the kids being kids, and then the dog kid does something dog kiddish. Yeah. And you'd think that joke would get tired, but it really doesn't, because there's a lot of heart to what it is, and you can tell that the kids are really enjoying themselves in each other's company, but also enjoying the setting that they're in, because it's all with the backdrop of Key House, and they're just discussing the life that they live, and you get to see the beautiful surroundings, like in the nature surrounding the house, and they're just enjoying their summer day in it. Yeah. And I really like that. The thing I loved about this book as a whole is that I wasn't expecting the 1-2 punch. I had no real idea what this book was going to be, other than just a one-shot comic about a dog and a dog chasing the animal key that we've seen from the original Lock and Key series. Yeah. I don't know if I want to talk about what's the next one called?
Nailed It.
I don't think I want to talk about what Nailed It is, because having not expected it, I didn't know there was going to be more to it beyond the dog story. This was like genuinely touching. I was genuinely quite emotional reading this. And like you said, it's a silent comic. There's only one real piece of dialogue or monologue at the end of it, but it's doing something that, if you're a fan of the Lock and Key series, this will likely touch you in a really, like, I don't know, deep place. and I don't know if I want to reveal that for other people.
Mm.
But needless to say, I think as an entire package, these two stories together are really wonderful. I think they work really well together. In like you have the levity of the first story and then the emotional punch of the second, and I just think it's one of my favorite purchases lately.
Yeah, no, yeah, I really enjoy that. I think that the colours in the first part of the story, they add some like real whimsy to it as well. Like,
yeah,
with like add a little bit, a layer of whimsy to it, or a filter.
Whimsy is a very good word for this.
Yeah, because it is very whimsical. The first story especially is super whimsical. But yeah, so the second story is like a teaser for things to come, I believe, and it's more Locke and Key. It is the Locke family, and there's some really cool like single panel work and splash page work in it, actually, because there's a lot of it where it's just like one big panel, and it's kind of gorgeous in that way, in that they, he's like, they're remodeling the house by the looks of things, and they do it by building a special key, and they build the key to remodel the house by the looks of things, and it just yeah, it's just really cool how it plays out. It's basically like the step-by-step of a day's work, building this key, creating a lock for it, and then using this magic key. And yeah, I just wanted to draw attention to the really cool single panel work in it, and the fact that it got me hype for things to come from Locke and Key, which I'm really, really excited for, whatever they do with this franchise, because I love it. Whatever they do with this story further forward, because I love it. It's got this like really, really something that Gabriel Rodriguez really does well. He does this thing with the framing, like the framing of the panels and the perspective and everything else. It's always like done in such a really gorgeous way, and he always manages to get the scale, like to show the scale of Key House and the magic of Key House. It's and like he manages to just encapsulate that. And I think it's like we've talked about this before, but I think he has a background in architecture, doesn't he?
Yeah,
and,
I think we did talk about that in the past.
Yeah, and he just like, it just shows, because the way he draws the building and the way he gets the scale of the building and everything else in. And the scale versus everybody else when they're walking around and everything, and just the perfect framing of it, and the perspective that you get, where the way he manages to show the scale in the panels, as in the perspective he gives you, like when things are gargantuan, they are gargantuan. Like the size of this building, you feel dwarfed by it when you're reading it, if you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah, there's a weight and a realism to his work.
Yeah, exactly, and it just looks so good like that, and it was just a nice little one shot and return to the magic of Key House for me. I thought it was great, and I love silent comics anyway, and this kind of like hit the spot, even short but sweet. This and Dog Days together make for a really nice one shot, and I'm glad I picked it up. Leon, you read this, right?
Yeah, I'd echo a lot of what you guys said, to be honest. Especially, I think the use of the contextual location art is just amazing, and the structure and layout of it is just so nice to look at. And it's funny because it's a comic book series that I adore, but I'd be completely happy if they were just completely done with it. But the little snippets we've had in some of these one shots have been quite nice, and like this comic, I found it's fun and playful. I found it quite slight. It's like a nice story, but it's a nice story that I would like to have as part of something else, like be like a distraction or a little break in a bigger story. Because by itself, it's not really the type of story to hook me in that way.
A short
even though
story
I enjoyed it
in a collection of short stories would be great.
Yeah,
I can imagine.
But then agreeing with what Rahul said about the 1-2 punch, I think I'm more positive on the book overall, because I do think the nailed it story gave me something that I wasn't expecting, and definitely wasn't expecting to enjoy.
Yeah,
and just there's like a series of panels, a page showing a series of panels that I won't really get into, that it did warm my heart a little, and did excite me, and I wasn't expecting that at all. But overall, it was a book that I was like, man, it's like, this is enough. But I think it's a good sort of taster teaser.
Yeah, I like these other stories surrounding Key House that we've been getting as well in the one shots. I do really like them. I think my favourite is still the one about the boy going to the moon.
That is very sweet. That's a very sweet story. Yeah.
That one's still my favourite. But yeah, I what was that one called again, Ray? I can't remember.
Oh, not a clue. Don't put me on the spot.
Yeah. But yeah, that one's still my favourite one, and I really do love me some Locke and Key, and this was a great little one shot and a great comic. Like you say, Leon, I think it might work better if it was collected with a bunch of other one shots, like a book of like Locke and Key short stories. But yeah, as for Dying is Easy, the one shot at the back of the book, that didn't do anything for me at all. Just did not hook me in at all. I'm sorry, but that fell flat for me. I don't know about you guys. I don't know if you've got any thoughts or feelings on that.
I didn't read it.
Yeah, it fell flat for me. It wasn't. I don't know. It just didn't have anything to hook. Maybe it's just me, my personal taste, but it didn't have anything that hooked me in. It wasn't for me. But yeah, the rest of this book was brilliant. I love it.
I quite like the artwork in it. The colourfulness and the abstractness of like.
Oh yeah, the art's fantastic, but the actual substance of it.
I don't know. It felt a bit like a drug trip, and it's like watching this comedian crash and burn because he's not actually trying to say anything funny. It's almost like it's about an ex-cop who is on a stage in a comedy club, and he's talking about the most miserable, depressing like things that he's seen as a homicide detective. Before he was disgraced, and we never learn exactly why. But I don't know, it sort of captured me. I think it's the content of what he's saying I don't like, but then I don't think I'm supposed to like it. I think we're supposed to be put off by this guy who's trying to find his outlet by just, speaking in front of a crowd who are there to be entertained, but are not entertained by his, dour bullshit. It kind of hooked me towards the end. I kind of want to know, because it cuts off a conversation right in the middle, and I kind of want to know what they say next, but we don't have it. So I don't know. I think I might follow up on it and see what it's about. But like that whole thing about it not appealing to you, I get why, because the content is really miserable. They're kind of like really leaning into the shitty language and saying shitty things, and it's about the kind of comedians that we we point at these days is like what not to do. Like, you can't just get away with saying awful things because they're funny to you. I think it's leaning a bit towards that, and I wonder where it's going to go with it. So I don't know. Even just for the artwork, I think it's this beautiful hazy almost like drug-fueled psychedelic art style. Yeah, where it's almost like there's Vaseline on a camera screen and on a camera lens, and everything's like blooming and bright and colorful. I kind of like it.
No, yeah, it's kind of the artwork's beautiful, but like you say, it just didn't appeal to me. Full stop. But yeah.
Also, before we carry on, the story about the moon set in the Locke and Key universe, that was called Open the Moon.
Open the Moon. Yeah, there we go. That's my favourite one. It's my favourite one shot so far, because that actually brought me to tears a little bit.
That's Eisner winning one shot.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. That's what it is. So yeah, that was the Locke and Key Dog Days, and I think that wraps us up. I think we're done. We don't have any more comics left to talk about, and I think that's time to move on to the pull list.
Go for it.
Yeah. So, 20th of November 2019, which will be when this podcast is available, we have Ice Cream Man number 16. Straight out. This one is called Tiny Lives, and the blurb is literally, whatever you do, do not read your daughter's diary. This one looks really interesting. We've got the man himself, Rick, the Ice Cream Man, playing with little figurines, dolls on like a what do you call those scale models of cities? There's like a proper name for them.
Like, I don't know, like a model city? Is that what it is?
I don't know, but yeah, I can't remember. There's a word I'm looking for that I can't remember, but he's playing with little dolls on a diorama. That's it. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but yeah, there we go. And some of them have fallen over, and some of them are bleeding, and he's got his horrible grin on his face, and the usual stuff that you would expect from another great issue of Ice Cream Man. The second thing I've got on the list is The Question, The Deaths of Vic Sage, number 1, which is it's a DC Comics Black Label thing. And for years, Vic Sage has worn the faceless mask of the Question to clean up the streets of Hub City by sheer force of will. He knows right from wrong. He knows black from white. But what happens when he's drawn into a conspiracy that reaches from the heights of Hub City power to the depths of its underground tunnels? What happens when things stop being black and white and start getting a little grey? And what happens when, in a secret chamber deep beneath the city, Vic Sage meets his own end and his new beginning? Eisner-winning writer Jeff Lemire joins forces with the legendary art team of Dennis Cowan and Bill Sinowicz to resurrect Vic Sage, only to destroy him all over again and again. So yeah, we get in a Question story now. This is like fairly front of my mind at the minute because of the whole Watchmen thing that's happening right now. With the Question being the basis for the character of Rorschach. So I'm looking forward to that. And it sounds pretty cool. I want to read a Question story, and that sounds cool to me, so let's go. Batman White Knight presents Von Freeze. So this is like I think this is a one-shot within the Batman White Knight stuff, and it's Batman White Knight presents Von Freeze. So this is about Mr. Freeze. Victor Von Freeze, and it's just the world's. It's a standalone tale in the world of Batman White Knight. On the night of Bruce Wayne's traumatic birth, Victor Freeze must intervene to save the lives of Martha Wayne and the future Batman. As the evening unfolds, Victor distracts Thomas with the incredible tale of his own father figures, one a Nazi, the other a Jew, and their complex connection to Wayne Laboratories. As the Third Reich roars into power, the deep friendship and working relationship between the Baron von Freeze and his research partner Jacob Smithstein is in crisis. Ordered by Himmler to speed development of their cryotechnology in service of world domination, Smithstein is forced to go into hiding and compromise his moral code in order to save his wife and infant daughter, Nora, from persecution and certain death. When the SS ramp up surveillance over the project, young Victor begins to question his father's true allegiance. Both families are driven towards an impossible choice and a sinister standoff, and Victor makes a pact with Smithstein that will ripple through generations. So, there we go. An alternate take on a well-established Batman villain in the White Knight universe, which I'm looking forward to. Sean Murphy and Klaus Janson. So, yeah, I'm down for that. We have Annihilation Scourge Alpha, which is something to do with a big upcoming Marvel event, and I picked it purely because it has the Silver Surfer on the cover. And it's about the Marvel cosmic characters and the Negative Zone and Nova, and I'm down for some Marvel cosmicness. Purely from the characters on the cover, I've chosen this. So yeah, let's go with that. it looked kind of exciting, so I thought, yeah, let's give that a go. There's another He-Man. Yeah, the He-Man Master of the Universe #1, so He-Man's back. This is DC Comics, and I don't know, he looks kind of goofy on the cover. He's got like a kind of a weird face. You know what he reminds me of? Is it Beverly Hills Ninja? With the chubby blonde dude trying to be a ninja. That old comedy movie. Am I right?
Not a clue, Craig. But
Yeah.
if you say so. Sounds
Rings
cool.
a bell. Rings a bell.
Yeah, he looks like, if you look at He-Man on this new He-Man comic, he looks like Beverly Hills Ninja. He like facially and the hair wise.
Yeah, I kind of see what you mean. Yeah.
You get it? Yeah.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Yeah. Well, there we go. Yeah, Beverly Hills Ninja. So, I'm just looking at pictures of Beverly Hills Ninja now, and I'm like, yeah, I was on the money. But yeah. So, like, He-Man's back in another He-Man comic. His a rag. Basically, it's like multiversal, multi-dimensional. The scourge of Anti-Eternia is unleashed upon the multiverse. Blazing a trail across the dimensions, he's devastating each version of Eternia and stealing its power. So now it's up to a ragtag team of surviving He-Men to recruit the one man in existence who might save them, Prince Keldor, the man who would be Skeletor. This all-new series features the most iconic eras and beloved takes on Masters of the Universe. So it's basically just like all the He-Men. You've got The Mask. I Pledge Allegiance to The Mask #2, which is something that we've talked about previously and we quite enjoyed, so check that out if you want some Mask comics. We've got a Boom comic here called Heartbeat, which is a story about a girl at school who finds herself witness to the fact that the most popular boy in school enjoys the taste of blood and will kill to get his hands on it. And she gets kind of pulled into his world, and it's kind of about how that works and the play between the two characters. Is she willing to betray her moral code in order to find something that gives her life meaning? And will she, or this boy who likes the taste of human blood, ever find redemption? So yeah, I mean, she kind of gets fascinated by it and gets into it, and then it's about kind of like how that works. So that is Heartbeat, and that is on Boom Comics. We've also got Olympia, which is something that I was very interested in, which is something on Image Comics. This is about Ellen, a latchkey kid who spends his days alone reading comic books until his favourite superhero, Olympian, comes crashing off the page and into reality. But as he nurses his wounded and delirious hero back to health, he discovers Olympian isn't the only thing that came through. Something evil followed him. And that kind of really appeals to me. It looks kind of cool as well. So yeah, I'm down. I want to read that. Count Crowley, Reluctant Midnight Monster Hunter #2. We really liked Count Crowley #1 on the previous show, so check that out. Hazel and Char Char Save Christmas, Tales from the Umbrella Academy, and I think it is what it says on the tin. I think it's Hazel and Char Char Save Christmas. So your bizarre assassin friends, Hazel and Char Char, they cross paths with a plot to discredit Christmas as they're chasing down a rogue time agent. And the cover looks great. It's got like the kind of like classic-y old school Christmas thing going on, which I really like. So the following week, which is the 27th of the 11th, we've got Tales from the Dark Multiverse Infinite Crisis, which is the next one in a line of Tales from the Dark Multiverse stuff that we've been reading. And this one was DC's mega event Infinite Crisis, which saw the destruction of the Trinity and the rise of Alexander Luthor and Superboy Prime and the rebirth of the multiverse. But it all started with Ted Kord, the Blue Beetle, who saw it all coming and died with secrets that could have saved the world. But things happen differently in the Dark Multiverse. Not only does the Blue Beetle survive, he thrives. And after killing Maxwell Lord himself, Ted sets off a chain of events that irreversibly alters the lives of the Justice League and his best friend, Booster Gold. In trying to prevent a crisis, Blue Beetle becomes the crisis, and the Dark Multiverse will never be the same. So that's another one that I'm going to check. We've got Basketful of Heads number 2, which again we discussed the first one, and we talked about the other thing in the Hill House Comics range that's now out, which is the Dollhouse Family, and all of it's really good. So get on that train, man. Get on it. John Constantine, Hellblazer number 1. So from the Sandman universe, we have John Constantine, who is getting his own comic again. This is another DC Black Label thing. He's back in London. He's back to his old tricks, and this time, as things have become very dark indeed in his old stomping grounds, a small-time gang lord has found himself dealing with a big-time outbreak of supernatural weirdness. Without any allies to call on and nothing left to call his own, John doesn't have much choice about taking a paycheck from one of London's worst, or accepting the help of one of the gang lord's would-be foot soldiers. But what should be an open and shut exorcism turns out to be nothing but. And the author of this madness may just be getting started on their terrible masterpiece. So this is like the original Constantine, and he's back. And this is like Cy Spurrier of The Dreaming and Aaron Campbell of Infidel. And he's got nothing to his name but decades of bad memories and an unearned second chance. And how exactly will he squander it? There's only one way to find out. So, yeah, you fancy yourself some John Constantine, that's where you go. We've got Conan 2099, number 1, which... this kind of struck me purely for the ridiculousness of Conan in the year 2099. So, eons from home, the barbarian battles the civilization of 2099. In the far-flung future of 2099, will barbarism finally triumph over an endangered civilization? When Conan the Barbarian entered the Marvel Universe in the Savage Avengers, he stayed to conquer and claim his kingship in the modern times. Now cursed by a mystic to live beyond his years, when Conan's new kingdom is threatened, he swings his blade once more. But as the calamity in 2099 bears down on his scheduled realm, will the future shock unseat the Barbarian King as an unforgettable chapter unlike anything you've ever seen in the saga of Conan? So, yeah, it looks like he's got a laser sword. But Marvel are doing the Marvel 2099 thing again, so they're doing these 2099 books again, and yeah, so Conan 2099, why not? Looks great, looks mad, looks like something I want to read. So we also have Witchfinder, the Reign of Darkness on the 27th of November, and that one is a Dark Horse book with Mike Mignola working on this. It's from the world of Hellboy. So Sir Edward Grey takes on London's most famous serial killer, but is the only one who thinks Jack the Ripper's murders have an occult purpose. When Scotland Yard turns its back on him, Grey finds an ally in an American occult adventurer, Sarah Jewell, but the forces allied against their investigation are more powerful than either one of them imagines. So this looks kind of cool, and I like the fact that, you know, it's set in the world of Hellboy, and it's about Jack the Ripper. I love what that Mike the things that Mike Mignola does with this stuff. Like, he takes like real life kind of stuff, like real life serial killer cases and things like that. He takes like things from real myths and legends, real old wives' tales, whatever, and he works them into his comic. And I love that about Hellboy, that it's kind of like this collection of superstitions and myth and whatever, but in the pages of a comic and fleshed out and done in a really nice way. I really enjoy that about it. So Ray, you have 2 comics?
Yeah, I got 2 quick ones I want to shout out. One is Fantastic Four Grand Design number 2, coming out on the 27th of November. You've talked about how much you enjoyed Fantastic Four Grand Design number 1, so just letting people know.
Yeah.
And then Resonant number 5, because I've talked a lot about how much I've enjoyed Resonant, at least issues 1 to 3, I believe, but this is number 5 coming out on the 27th. Really good book. Recommend it.
Yeah. I might not be around for the next show. In fact, I probably won't be. So I think you'll be recording it the weekend I move house.
We will take care of your baby in your absence.
Yes. So it'll just be you two and possibly a guest, if you manage to grab somebody. But yeah, that has been Ace Comicals episode number 76. You can find us in all the usual places that you go looking for podcasts. You can find us at www.acecomicals.com, which is kind of the hub for everything that we do. We are available everywhere. Like I say, all the usual places you go looking for podcasts: Apple Podcasts, Castbox, Castro, Overcast, Pocket Cast, Spotify, Stitcher, TuneIn. You can find us on Twitter under Ace Comicals. You can find us on Facebook at Ace Comicals. You can find me on Twitter under @Batto. That's BATTOU. You can get involved with the conversation at us, DM us. Tell us if you enjoy something. If you like what we're talking about, then tell us. Get involved in the conversation. And if you've been reading anything that we've talked about, give us your views. We'd love to hear what you think. Also, you can email us at acecomicals@gmail.com. Ray, where can we find you?
On Twitter at Monkeh, so that's at MOONKEH.
You can find us on Instagram under Ace Comicals as well. And Leon, where can we find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Leon Everett.
Okay, so thank you for listening. That has been Ace Comicals number 76, and that is Ace Comicals over and out.